Hi and welcome back to another YouTube video. So today we're delving into the life of Daemon Targaryen and this is part 1. So without further ado, let's begin. Prince Daemon, the first of his name, was born in 81 AC during the reign of the old king Jaehaerys Targaryen, who was also known as the Conciliator, and he was the second son to Prince Baelon and Princess Alyssa, and was born with the Valyrian features as befit his royal blood. So in Daemon's case, it was silver hair and purple eyes. What shade of purple isn't specified, and we will not be seeing them in House of the Dragon from the looks of it, which makes me very sad considering I was really hoping that they would add in some CGI purple eyes because it would really take the show to the next level. But it might still be great. I'm very hopeful. And Daemon's face is said to have been familiar to every thief, whore, and gambler in Flea Bottom ever since his youth. Daemon was said to be dashing, moody, and impetuous, and as charming as he was hot-tempered, and he was knighted at the age of 16, and was actually gifted Dark Sister, the ancestral Targaryen sword, which was also borne by Queen Visenya of the original Targaryen trio, and to be given that sword was a recognition of your strength. It was something that not every Targaryen was given. So when Daemon was 16, he was also wed to Rhea Royce of Runestones. And even though it was a rich match and a good political match and everything you could want, basically for a second son, he didn't like Rhea, and Rhea didn't like him, and they soon became estranged. And he actually nicknamed Rhea, so beautiful, he nicknamed her his bronze bitch, which was a mockery regarding the runic bronze armor worn by the Royce Lords. So he didn't really win any points with her there. And Daemon didn't care for the Vale and found it immensely boring, which we can see in his letter here to Viserys. "In the Vale, the men fuck sheep," he wrote. "You can't fault them. Their sheep are prettier than their women." Which gives you an idea of what a gentleman Daemon was. And Daemon supported Viserys' claim to the throne during the Great Council because it made him second in line to it. And he even gathered a small army after it was rumored that Corlys Velaryon was readying a fleet to defend his son Laenor's rights. And who was Laenor Velaryon the son to? Rhaenys Targaryen. And who was Rhaenys Targaryen the daughter to? Aemon Targaryen. Who was Aemon Targaryen the older brother to? Prince Baelon Targaryen. Who was Prince Baelon Targaryen the father to? Prince Viserys and Prince Daemon Targaryen. So Daemon was cousins with Rhaenys, and Rhaenys Targaryen was also known as the queen who never was, and technically she was the oldest child of the oldest child. So her offspring should have been the heir to the throne, and especially since she had a son. But the lords and the knights chose to disregard that, and their excuse was that, well, Laenor's a child and Viserys is grown, so he gets the throne. People had bad blood about that. It wasn't something that was solved, it was mostly something that was brushed over. So after Viserys became king, Daemon asked, well, it says that he asked, but personally I think he got on his knees and begged his brother, please annul my marriage to Rhea. I can't stand her anymore, I can't stand being married. But when asked this, Viserys, for some reason, was like, you know what? No, heart emoji. I will not annul your marriage. Stay married. So that's what he did. That's what Daemon had to do. And fun fact, Daemon was defeated twice by Sir Criston Cole during the tourney for Viserys' ascension. However, Viserys did let Daemon return to court and take up position as Master of Coin from 103 to 104 AC and Master of Laws for half a year in 104 AC. But governance bored the warrior prince, so he had Viserys make him commander of the City Watch. And he found the City Watch ill-armed and clad in oddments and rags, and, well, Daemon was abashed to see it, so he equipped them with new materials and gave them long golden cloaks that they may wear in pride. And after that, they were known as the Gold Cloaks. And he actually took eagerly to this work. This made him excited. This made him want to get up in the mornings, And Daemon became a familiar sight in wine sinks, where he, incidentally, drank for free, and gambling pits, where he always seemed to leave with more money than when he entered. And he was said to have sampled countless whores in the city brothels and was said to have an especial fondness for quote-unquote deflowering maidens, and a pale Lycian dancer quickly became his favorite. Her name was Mazaria, but her enemies called her Misery, the White Worm. And Daemon's niece, the Princess Rhaenyra, was also enamored of Daemon because he was ever attentive to her. He'd bring her exotic, exciting gifts wherever he traveled upon his dragon, the great bloodworm Caraxes, across the narrow sea. And Daemon was everything that his brother was not. The king had grown soft and plump over the years. Viserys never claimed another dragon after Balerion's death, nor did he have much taste for the joust, the hunt, or swordplay, whereas Prince Daemon excelled in these spheres and seemed all that his brother was not. Lean and hard, a renowned warrior, dashing, daring, more than a little dangerous. And Sir Otto Hightower, the Hand of the King, took a great dislike to Daemon, which we can see in this next quote. On no account can Prince Daemon be allowed to ascend the Iron Throne, the Hand wrote to his brother, Lord of Old Town. He would be a second Maegor the Cruel, or worse. It was Sir Otto's wish, then, that the Princess Rhaenyra succeed her father. Better the realm's delight than Lord Fleabottom. Nor was he alone in his opinion. And King Viserys wasn't blind to Daemon's flaws, but he instead chose to disregard them and instead remember Daemon as the boy he was and not the man he became. And he also sought to make peace between Lord Otto Hightower and Daemon on multiple occasions, but it never just seemed to happen. And Queen Aemma died in childbirth in 105 AC, giving birth to the long-awaited son that they named Balon in honor of the Spring Prince. But Balon would only survive her by a day. And Daemon was later observed in a brothel making remarks about the quote-unquote heir for a day, and it infuriated Viserys so that when he found out, he took Rhaenyra and made her Princess of Dragonstone, stated that she was his rightful heir, and made all the lords of the Seven Kingdoms swear fealty to her, and she was to rule the Seven Kingdoms after his death. And y'all can imagine the stir-ups that this caused. So Daemon was in a black rage when he found out. He did not swear fealty to Rhaenyra, but instead left King's Landing and resigned from the City Watch furiously. So first he left for Dragonstone and took his paramour Mysaria with him, and they stayed there for 6 months, and she succeeded in getting pregnant in the midst of it. And when he learned that Mysaria was pregnant, he gifted her with a dragon egg. And you might think, oh, that's so sweet, Daemon wants to be a father. But historically, dragon eggs were only given to the Targaryen children in their cradle so that the child may bond with their hatchling. But I think it was kind of an unspoken rule that this was to be for true-born children, born within the bounds of marriage. Suffice to say that this child would not be it. So when Daemon did this, he went too far and woke the wrath of Viserys, who demanded that he send his whore away and return to his lawful wife Rhea Royce or be named a traitor. And Daemon did as Daemon did, so he obeyed with ill grace and sent Mysaria back to Lys without an egg, and on the way she lost the child. And Daemon didn't speak any word of grief, but thereafter hardened his heart against Viserys, and only spoke of the king with disdain, and began to brood day and night over the succession. So when word reached Daemon in the Vale that Viserys intended to marry Lady Alicent Hightower, he reportedly whipped the serving man who brought the news within an inch of his life. Daemon had taken all he could of the Vale and instead began to rule the Stepstones, styling himself as King of the Stepstones in the Narrow Sea. With the help of his cousin-in-law, Corlys Velaryon, they'd apparently mended fences by this point. And when King Viserys heard of this, he was reported to have said, "Let Daemon play at war. It keeps him out of trouble." And Daemon returned to court in 111 AC right in the midst of the enmity between the Greens and the Blacks. And if you don't know what the Greens and the Blacks are, they were basically two factions that formed that either supported the succession of Princess Rhaenyra or the succession of Queen Alicent and her children, considering that Rhaenyra now had living male siblings that would technically, according to their point of view, take precedence over a woman. So that's kind of what the war was all about. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Rhaenyra was super pleased to see her favorite uncle, which we can see in this next quote. Yet there was one who wore neither green nor black, but rather gold and silver. Prince Daemon had at last returned to court, wearing a crown and styling himself as King of the Narrow Sea. He appeared unannounced in the skies above King's Landing on his dragon, circling thrice above the tourney grounds. But when at last he came to earth, he knelt before his brother and offered up his crown as a token of his love and fealty. Viserys returned the crown and kissed Daemon on both cheeks, welcoming him home. And the lords and commons sent up a thunderous cheer as the sons of the Spring Prince were reconciled. Amongst those cheering loudest were Princess Rhaenyra, who was thrilled at the return of her favorite uncle and begged him to stay a while. And I think that's an apt moment to wrap up part 1 and leave you guys waiting for part 2. I just want to say thank you guys for the continuous support for my channel. I know it takes me a long time to post, and sometimes, an entire year passes, but I'm really hoping to become more active right now, and hopefully part 2 will be out next week, within the coming days. We'll see. Please share this video. Please bring attention to it. Let's hopefully make this channel grow a bit. Put on post notifications so that you're always notified when I post, and please drop a comment down below. Tell me what you think of Daemon so far. And have a nice day. Bye!